Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another videos of the paid request, this time for frame by frame. Thank you so much for that. For those interested in requesting any type of videos, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. And this is for Monkey Man, the 2024 film starring and directed by Dev Patel, which I guess he was in that film Slumdog Millionaire, among other movies. The movie takes place in India, very, very much enriched in the Indian culture, about a guy that when he was a kid, this corrupt police chief, among others, went to his village, burned down his village, killed his mom. He was able to survive. Nowadays, he will go to this ring with this monkey suit, this monkey mask, I should say. And pretty much he's paid to lose. Put up a good fight, get knocked down at this part or this round, and then get a payday afterward. And the guy that comes in the ring to announce and talk is Sharlto Copley, who I do like. He was in District 9, he was in this film Boy Kills World that I reviewed not too long ago. He was in Hardcore Henry. So one thing leads to another. He gets some info and tries to make up a plan where some people steal this lady's wallet. He's able to get the wallet, return it back to her so he didn't have a one-on-one with her. Says that he wants a job, shows how burnt up his hand is, saying I'll do whatever, even the jobs you don't want to do. The reason he wants to get this job at this restaurant, and he's the dishwasher, is to work up the ranks in that restaurant in order to get close to this corrupt police chief who visits this restaurant from time to time. He meets this one guy, he helps him out so he can get a promotion to be a waiter. So at times he can really get close to this police chief guy called Rana. He does, tries to kill the guy, things screw up. He makes his escape. Pretty lengthy escape, about 10 minutes long, with ups and downs, which I'll get to. He escapes, he heals at this temple, he trains in order to go back and get his revenge, which is about the last 20 minutes of the movie. It's funny, you look at the marketing of the film. The marketing of the film would make you seem like this is more of a John Wick type of movie. They even reference John Wick. When he buys a gun, the guy asks, "You like John Wick? This is a gun like his." Like, they reference John Wick. Now, I get it that it's not going to be wall-to-wall action. You're not going to have action every 10 minutes. And even if you watch like the first John Wick, and there are movies that take their time to build a story before the action kicks in, I perfectly understand that. And to give positives, it's a slick looking production. I definitely think Dev Patel tried to be ambitious as a director. He didn't try to sit on his laurels, so to speak. When the action scenes are there, granted, at times it felt a bit too chaotic. At times the camera was going a bit too crazy for my liking. But there's some good stuff. When he's escaping from the cops, there's a bit where he lands in this area where there's prostitution and stuff, and there's this guy with an axe, and he's avoiding down with the axe, and it hits the side, and the axe is dragging across the wall as the guy's going along with it, and our lead guy bites the guy's nose. And some decent makeup effects there. And the finale, there's a bit in a kitchen where there's some good choreography. There's another bit in an elevator, which I like the bit where he stabs the guy and then the guy's got his arm, so our lead takes his teeth into the handle of the knife and pushes the knife into the guy's neck. I thought that was kind of a neat... I haven't seen that before. At least not that often. It's definitely violent at times. I get what the guy was going for, the director. He really wanted to show the history of his culture. So I would not call this a bad film. I wouldn't. But did I really like the film? Not really. I mean, if I ever saw the film again, I would honestly just go on YouTube and search for the fight scenes. Which, again, there's really only two sections. Bits in that 10-minute, like 40 minutes into the movie. And then the last 20 minutes of the film, some of the stuff in there. Because the first 40 minutes, again, I get what the director's going for, but it reminds me of the issue I have with some of the on-bot sequels. When Tony Jaa was very much more hands-on. Where, like, if you look at Unbot 2 and 3, there's some decent action in there, but you can tell he's much more gung-ho and showing the history of his culture, much more about the love of his culture, the background of his culture, the political or social strife. At least more so in this. I can't remember on Bot 2 or 3 if it dealt with that part. But it's very much honed in on that than entertainment escapism. Now it's valid. That's a valid theme, but at the same time, if you look at the marketing, I think the marketing is a little bit misleading. And, you know, people blame, oh, it's political, it's Jordan Peele. The movie was already done by the time Jordan Peele got involved. The movie was done and finished. Jordan Peele saw it and said, oh, I like it, let me put my name on it. And instead of just going straight to Netflix, they'll go in a couple theaters. Which I think it did make at least a bit of money. So, again, Jordan Peele had nothing to do with the script. He put his name on it to get in a couple theaters. Because he liked the film. And that's when I watched like the first 40 minutes, it just, maybe because I've seen so many of these type of films, so many of these types of revenge films, it's not cheap looking, I'll give you that. It definitely showcases the culture and the slums and how run down certain things are. The cinematography, pretty damn good. But it just felt so typical at the end of the day, where it's showing a loved one, him as a kid, happier times. Even being paid to lose, I've seen that multiple times before, and I don't know, maybe at this point I either need a lead guy that I really, really warm up to in terms of humor or personality, or I need events that seem very quirky or different. Like even John Wick with the whole dog thing, at least they seem much more unique than I usually see in these type of films. And also the world building of the assassins and the gold coins or the other pieces of gold, and this cop who just happens to be friends with, you worked at it again, John? Like that type of, or Nobody with Bob Odenkirk being such a unique choice, and the way he handles his family and his day-to-day life, and what's going on with his thinking, and his dad, played by Christopher Lloyd. Like, stuff that just felt more unique or funny or interesting. In this, it just seemed like a lot of been there, done that, unless you're really, really partial to the Indian culture and lifestyle, which on one hand I'm like, good for him. He wants to show love for his culture. I can appreciate that, but I just, did I find that interesting? Did I find that exciting? Not really. Not really. Sharlto Copley, it's cool to see him, but anybody could have played his part. He comes in, he announces in the ring, gives the guy the money. It's not enough money. Hey, I could find anybody else. It's cool to see him, but again, anybody could have played his part. The other supporting characters, there's really not much to say. The villains, there's not much to say. I mean, the villains, you just get the idea that they're corrupt. They burn these villages to maybe set up this factory. The the head bad guy's like this new spiritual guru that people are looking towards, and he's being interviewed and been up there in power. But you don't really get much of a sense of the bad guys in terms of personality or quirks, or you don't really get to know a whole lot about the bad guys. The supporting characters, you don't really get to know much either. Dev Patel, I mean, he doesn't have a whole lot of dialogue. I don't think he did a bad job. He had a good look. His stance, his movements, when he does the fight scenes, you tell he trained for it. Commendable effort. But I just don't think there was as much there as they want to say for all the critics to praise it so much. I mean, I got more entertainment value out of Scott Adkins films, like the Undisputed sequels, or One Shot, or some of these other movies. Or, oh, what was that one movie? God. Bad with titles, bad with names. Lately? And like I said, the first 40 minutes, because it's a 2-hour movie as well. It's a 2-hour film, so it's not, the shortest movie. And I think that's when the pacing kind of hurt it for me. So I get it. It's building up. Okay, it's been 40 minutes, and I'm kind of sitting there going, That's kind of the reaction I had. Okay. Wasn't horrible. Wasn't that exciting. Wasn't, other than the Indian culture, wasn't that original. Wasn't as creative or clever or exciting. I'm kind of just waiting for the next, like, once it really kicked into high gear. Now, like 40 minutes in, he tries to kill the corrupt police chief in the bathroom. Getting into spoilers. He screws up. He gets beaten up. They go back and forth in this bathroom, like struggling with each other. They both get wounded. He escapes. Okay, the director tries to have some different stuff with the camera work. There are times he's going down the stairs. We see a bit of his POV for a little bit as he's like kicking people. I did like this bit that against the tropes where he sees a window and you assume he's going to jump through it, but he bounces off because the glass is a bit harder than you would think. Okay, I like that bit. No, like jumping through glass is not as easy as you think. So I appreciate that. He goes downstairs, he steals his rickshaw. Now again, sometimes the editing and sometimes it's going almost too over ambitious with the camera work, so it just feels a bit chaotic, but I get what the director's trying to drive this energy, and I appreciate the ambition more than, at least he wasn't being lazy with it. This is his first directing gig, and he's starring in it, and he really wanted to prove himself. I just think at times it could be toned down a bit, at times. He stops the rickshaw because he doesn't want to hit this girl. The rickshaw gets hit. They flip over. He's arrested. He's in a van. He fights the cops. The corrupt cops, gets out of there, runs for it, enters what finds out was like a prostitution place. There's this guy with an axe, which I thought was the best part of that whole bit, was the fight with the guy with the axe. I liked the way that was choreographed. I liked how violent and brutal that scene was. That I did like. Runs out, runs on the rooftops, gets wounded, falls to the water, gets saved by this person named Alpha. Healed in this temple. He tastes these drugs. They gets a little bit of acid trip. where you see like he opens up his chest, and he opens up his chest, and we this light that we go in, and we see pretty much the flashbacks of what happened. His mom died, his village burned down, and training pretty much is just punching a bag, lifting some weights, stuff like that. There's nothing that original or that creative with the training scenes. Just kind of was what it was. But again, you're talking to a guy that have seen training scenes dozens and dozens of times, so I get it's a bit hard to find something a bit creative to do during it, but even with just like the music or the way it's edited, it just kind of felt typical. And also, like, as he's training, you see the anger in his face, and then you see what's going on in his culture. And it looks like they put maybe real footage in there as well. Because you see, like, the camera stock changes. I'm like, it seemed like they took, like, real footage of the turmoil in India, and they put it in there. And you go, okay, this is what it's going for. Going for the oppression in India and what's going on, and like I said, I can appreciate what they're going for and what he's going for, but just to be blunt, I didn't care. I know that sounds mean, but I didn't care. I'm sorry if that sounds mean. And he trains, he goes back to get his revenge, and then you get like the last 20 minutes of the movie. Pretty much what you see in the trailers of all the action is pretty much the last 20 minutes of this movie. Now, there's some entertaining stuff there. Before that, he fights as the Monkey Man again in the ring, but this time he's not going to lose. He beats one guy with one kick, which of course I've seen that done many, many times, where one punch it takes someone down. Van Damme has done that a couple times, whether a punch in the nuts or something. I think Tony Jaa did that in one of the movies, and it's something you've seen a lot. There's another guy he fights who I call Lurch, for how tall he is. Which is fine, but again, you see a little bit of the almost too chaotic camera work there. He did that to get this money to give to the people who helped heal him at the temple. But he goes in, you have this kitchen fight, which was pretty decent. You have this elevator fight that was pretty decent. Then this, like, kind of bar, much bigger, open-spaced room where he fights these guys. Again, pretty decent choreography. And I guess some people from the temple have come by, and I guess they are transgender people. Because it's guys, but they're wearing these geisha like outfits, and I didn't care one way or another. I'm like, okay, cool. I mean, at least they don't stop to go, we're better than you or anything. Fine. To me, I'm like, whatever. Didn't find it a big deal one way or another. I just mentioned that because, like, a lot of articles are sprout off, oh my god, look how great this is for the community. I'm like, okay, cool. Cool story. That's the thing, I don't care. One way or another, I do not care about that stuff. It's not bad, it's not good, I just don't care. But they help our lead character out. This one girl, like, okay, a female villain tries to shoot at him, and then this other girl that we've seen a couple times, and she's talked with our lead character a couple times, and she kills that bad lady, that evil lady, to help our lead guy. But even then, like, we don't really get to know much about this other girl. Like, we see her a couple times, but there's not a whole lot of build-up. I mean, okay, that's not true. There's build-up, but it's just, if you were to question me much about her character, I couldn't really give you a whole lot of answers. She appeared a couple times. When he was a waiter, they would talk a couple times, but nothing too in-depth and nothing too deep to really get into. Fights the Rana guy, which honestly I thought was just an alright fight. For your main fight at the end, I don't know, maybe I'm just spoiled because I've seen bigger battles. I mean, even the Beekeeper, the bigger battles at that finale, and some of the John Wick sequels, and Nobody with Odenkirk, and hell, the fight at the end of Boy Kills World, where him and his sister fight Mad Dog. I know that's his character's name in The Raid Redemption, but this the actor who played Mad Dog. Like, that fight was much more intense and much more brutal and much more exciting. That's why I know there's a guy, nice guy, but he's like, when I review Boy Kills World, he's like, yeah, it's, although I didn't like Monkey Man, I thought that was better than Boy Kills World. I disagree. We agree to disagree. I thought Boy Kills World had better pacing, more exciting fights, at least more of a quirky sense of humor to make it stand out from the pack. Maybe sometimes it didn't work 100%, like the narration that the kid remembers from his video games before he became mute and deaf. But, like, at least that has a bit more of, like, a different, unique setup compared to this. Really, the only difference is it takes place in India. If you took this, I mean, people would say that's enough. Okay. Maybe it's just not enough for me. Because other than it taking place in India, everything in here you've seen done before, and in my opinion, I've seen done better in a variety of movies that I've seen throughout the years. It's not a horrible movie. Is that a terrible movie? Not at all. It's not a rant. But would I ever see the film again, like I said before? No. Honestly, like, some of these fights, they'll be on YouTube, and I'll watch some of the clips on YouTube. Monkey Man versus Axe Guy, or Monkey Man Elevator, Monkey Man Kitchen. Because, like I said, I think the fight he has with that Ron, it really is like, it's okay, but nothing that great or memorable. And spoilers, he gets to the head guy. Could just kill him right off the bat, but of course can't do that because he gotta see this helicopter, and then the guy stabs him, but he takes the thing and then stabs the guy. Then he stands there and he's remembering his past, remembering his mom. He succumbs to his injuries. Did he die? Did he live? We don't know. It seemed like he died, but then I read if there's talk of a Monkey Man 2, and if that's the case, then maybe he lived. Whatever. I think it's going to be one of those films that got a little bit of buzz, but I don't think it's going to be remembered too much afterward. Like I said, I don't think it was an awful film. It's just, it has some slick production in terms of cinematography, has a couple of decent action parts, a handful of them, but I think the pacing at times is sluggish. It's a bit too long. I think some stuff could be cut down. And it would have been nice to have a bit more of ingenuity or a bit more creativity in terms of either the story, the villains, because you barely know the villains. You could argue the villains are one-dimensional. You could easily argue that. The lead guy, Dev Patel, wasn't bad, but there's not a whole lot to really hone in there in terms of a lead character. You could argue the same with John Wick, but again, at least the circumstances are a little bit more unique compared to other stuff. The world building is a little bit more creative compared to other movies. And I don't know, like I said, I didn't hate it, I didn't love it. It was what it was. So with that said, thanks for watching. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye for now.